everyone. Today we will be discussing the topic NGO. We have already discussed the syllabus in detail in our previous section. And in this section we will be discussing what is an NGO and its characteristics, the challenges related to the NGOs and some suggestions, then current affair related to this topic and some previous year questions. So let us start our discussion. What is an NGO? NGO means non-governmental organizations. Non-governmental organizations. From the name itself, these are organizations which works independently from government. These are organizations which works independently from government. In other words, these are any non-profit, voluntary, citizens group, and it is organized on a local level, national level or international level. There are some NGOs which works in the local level and some are working the national level and some are working the international level. So these are non-profit. There is no profit motive for these organizations and these are voluntary citizens group. So these are citizens group and it includes doctors, engineers, laborers, farmers, students, okay, etc. So these are any non-profit voluntary citizens group and which is organized on a local level, national level or international level. Okay. Then these are task oriented. These organizations are task oriented and driven by people with common interest So these are task oriented and driven by people with common interest. That means they works in a specific area such as for education sector, for environment, for health sector. Okay. So these are task oriented and driven by people with common interest. For example, in the environment sector, the famous Greenpeace, and for example in the human rights and protection, the Amnesty International is an example. So these are task oriented and driven by people with common interest. Then India has around 3.2 million registered NGOs. India has around 3.2 million registered NGOs. And this type of data can be used in your introduction part or in other GS papers or in your essay papers, etc. So India has around 3.2 million registered NGOs. Then the principles of NGOs. The principles of NGOs include to promote human development, and to promote social equality, and altruism. Altruism means selfless concern for the well-being of others. Altruism is selfless concern for the well-being of others. So the principles of NGOs include human development, social equality and altruism. Okay. Then some of the importance of the NGOs include it perform various humanitarian functions. And it brings citizens concerned to the government. That means it acts as an intermediate or a bridge between citizens and government. It brings citizens concerned to the government. So it acts as an intermediator. Okay. Then it support government. That means it is not possible for the government to do all development activities. So these NGOs support the government for the development activities. Okay. So the NGOs support the government for development activities. Then it addresses problems of vulnerable sections. We have already discussed about these vulnerable sections, and these vulnerable sections include women, children, SCs, STs, etc. So these NGOs helps to address problems of vulnerable sections. So the keywords are, these are works independent from the government, and these are non-profit, voluntary and task oriented, then with a common interest. Okay. Then the principles of NGOs include to promote human development, social equality and altruism. Altruism means selfless concern for the well-being of others. Then around 3.2 million registered NGOs in India. Then some of the importance of NGOs include it to perform humanitarian functions, and it to bring citizens' concerns or citizens' problems to the government. Then it to support government in development activities, and it address problems of vulnerable sections. Okay. Then the various fundraising methods of NGOs. In order to work smoothly, or in order to function smoothly, the NGOs require fund. And there are some fundraising methods include through its volunteers. The volunteers provide some funds to these NGOs, and through donation, and through government fund, and other private sources. It include foreign funds, etc. Okay. Here there is a confusion, because even though it works independently from government, it receives some fund from the government. Though it operates independently from government, but sometimes NGOs are funded by government. So it works independently from government, but it receives fund from the government. Okay. Then registration of NGOs. The NGOs should be registered under various acts in India. So, like that, like Societies Registration Act, Indian Trust Act, Companies Act, etc. So these the NGOs should be registered in these acts. Why these NGOs registered in these acts? There are some benefits associated with this registration, such that for tax deductions, for considering tax deductions, or for tax benefits. Okay. Then for considering government grants, then for receiving foreign funds, etc. Okay. So the registration of NGOs will help tax deductions, or for considering government grants, and for receiving foreign funds, etc. And there are some constitutional provisions related to the formation of NGOs, and these are under Article 19, Clause 1, Clause C. The fundamental rights which provide the right to form associations, that means right to form NGOs. So these are the then Part 9b. Part 9b. The formation of cooperative societies. So Article 19, Clause 1, Clause C, right to form associations, and Part 9b, formation of cooperative societies. These are some constitutional provisions which are related to the formation of NGOs. So the next part is role of NGOs in development. Role of NGOs in development. It is a potential area, and UPSC may ask questions like role of NGOs in development in various sectors, and discuss with some suitable examples. So it is an important area. The first one is role of NGOs in education. Role of NGOs in education. There are some problems related to these education sectors, such that according to UNESCO report, 264 million children do not have access to education. According to UNESCO report, 264 million children do not have access to education. And this type of data will enhance your marks. So you can add to this type of data in your answer. So according to UNESCO report, 5.264 million children do not have access to education. Then there are some other problems, like there are not enough government-run schools or hospitals, especially in rural areas. So there are not enough government schools especially in rural areas. In this situation, the NGOs can play a greater role. For example, the local NGOs like in Kerala, the local NGO like Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad. It is an NGO and it is credited for 100% literacy rate in Kerala. And the next NGO is Smile Foundation. Smile Foundation is an NGO which works in the field of education, and it conducts a national level program called Mission Education. So the examples related to the NGOs which works in the field of education are Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad and Smile Foundation, etc. And you can, if you find other examples, you can add to this list, okay? Then, role of NGOs in human rights and protection. Role of NGOs in human rights and protection. For human rights, for example, the famous Amnesty International is an example of NGO which works in the field of human rights and protection. Then, in the field of human rights and protection, women rights and protection, the example is Azad Foundation. Azad Foundation is an example, is an NGO which works in the field of women rights and protection, and it helps to rescue women and children from unsafe and violent environment and rehabilitating them. That means it works in the field of women rights and protection. So in the education sector, the NGOs are, the examples of NGOs include Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad, Smile Foundation, etc. Then in the field of human rights and protection, the famous Amnesty International. Then in the field of women rights, Azad Foundation, etc. Azad Foundation, okay.